After having done, I don't know what that was, what am I doing with my hands here? After having gone through and ranked all the Harry Potter books, I thought the next logical step was to then do the films. And there's no point me going through and doing each film as a separate video, unless you guys want that. Let me know if you do, but I thought I'd do a big, well, they're big, I'd do a video comparing them all and I'd rank them. But before we get into today's video, remember I stream over on Twitch. So far it's not been as regular as it should because I've been trying to get this YouTube stuff going out first, because that's the priority at the minute. But it should be from 12 till 4 on weekdays. You'll see I'll either stream or but main thing is support the YouTube channel, and then once we get this going, I'll make sure the Twitch schedule is pretty regular. And the link for that will be down in the description below. Okay, so let's start off with number 8. This one is the HalfBlood Prince, and I felt this one isn't bad. It's just the worst of the lot. It's a shame because this one is one of my favourite of the books, but it just feels very different, and tonally it kind of falls flat. It tries to do this balancing act between the kind of, I don't know what to describe it, teenage kind of life stuff, as well as the Voldemort backstory, Horcrux stuff. And it just falls flat in both of those. And removing some scenes that I thought were quite good in the books. For example, especially the end of the book, when they have this whole kind of like fight kind of stuff in the HalfBlood Prince movie at the very end. And that's where Bill gets like attacked by Fenrir. And that's just completely removed, which I thought was a bit weird. But then, like I said before, I felt they lent too much into the teenage kind of stuff rather than Voldemort's backstory, which is what the whole kind of reason of this movie. Because, yeah, and it was just a bit of a shame that managed to fall off a bit there. For number 7, I'd have to say Chamber of Secrets. Like I said in my review of the book, this one falls too much into the plot conveniences. For example, the fact that nobody dies, everyone is petrified because no one looks the basilisk in the eye, which I felt was a bit weird. Too many people, too many chances were given there. However, the final scenes managed to lean more into Harry's abilities than the books do. They take away of those plot conveniences that happened. Some are there, of course, but the fact that Harry manages to escape the snake or the basilisk, ends up getting the sword and has to climb up the statue whilst being attacked, nearly falls off and dies, and then manages to kill the basilisk. And one of the reasons I had a problem with the book was that as soon as Harry's injured by the basilisk, it's very quickly resolved by the Phoenix Tears, whereas this one draws it out for a little bit longer, and Harry actually has time to contemplate the fact that he might actually die from this. And so the fact that comes back is quite, I didn't feel it was as quick as it happened in the book. Although with this one, the standout performance is pretty obvious. I'm sorry for the joke there, but I do like the character of Gilderoy Lockhart, portrayed in this one by Kenneth Branagh, and he's just hilarious. He's like the best reason for this film, and I know people hate him, but just how much of an idiot he is, he's just great in this role. In the number 6 position, I'm going to have to go with The Deathly Hallows Part 1. And this one, although being a good movie, suffers from the fact that it's part 1 of a 2-parter. Because with that, you can't give a satisfying enough conclusion to this film, because that would then undermine the next one. And so you have to give a kind of conclusion, but nothing too much that it kind of gets in the way of the rest of it. So the fact is that they escape Malfoy Manor. Which, yes, they managed to escape, all as well, for the time being, but it still seems a bit flat in terms of quite a lot of it is just them in the forest, just doing stuff. Okay. I do feel like I don't know, maybe I feel like they could have done the Avengers Endgame route and just do a longer film and just have them both, because I don't know whether they should have been 2 parts. I feel like sometimes it's a bit, I don't know, I feel like they could have done a 3-hour movie and done the whole thing. I know people, I don't know, it's weird, they made more money, so good on them, but still. And like I said, there's no sufficient ending. It just, spoilers alert, I don't know why you're watching this video if you've never seen it. I don't know how you've never seen Harry Potter if you've not. But go away if you've not watched it. Go away, watch the movies, then come back. Yeah. But yeah, no, so the film ends with them escaping Malfoy Manor, but there is the death of Dobby. So it kind of feels a bit weird, the ending. Like, it's, I don't know. Then again, I'm complaining about there not being a proper conclusion, but Empire Strikes Back is like one of the best movies ever. So, I don't know. There are, however, some great scenes. For example, the breaking into of the Ministry of Magic, which is quite good. And then also the scenes once they get captured by Snatchers, and in Malfoy Manor, which are all very good scenes and kind of make the movie. But as I said before, it kind of loses this, like, I don't know, loses credibility in terms of it being a part 1 of a part 2, so the film cannot end on a satisfying enough conclusion that it feels like the rest of the film has progressed. I don't know. But anyway, at number 5 we have ThePhilosophers Stone. This one is a great movie, and it leans more into the child-based protagonist, the kind of the initial audience for Harry Potter. It leans back into that. It's done by, I think, Christopher Columbus, who did Home Alone, and he managed to make this one feel, he sets up this kind of world on screen, and he does a really good job of it, of like setting the foundations. Part of me kind of would argue that the change in directors of these movies are kind of why it worked, because you had, I'll talk about it in the next one, because the next one's a key movie, but I'll say why. But this one, and from here onwards, none of these are like much better than the other ones. This is just, some do things slightly better, so that's why they're being placed higher. But it does a great job of starting out this adaptation to the screen, and it brings in a great cast, and as a standalone movie you can watch this and love it, and it's nice to see some of the things that carry over from here. If we skip over to number 4, we're going to talk about The Prisoner of Azkaban, and this one is a vital one in the series, I would argue, because this one, from a filmmaker standpoint, is a very good movie. Probably, I'd say, the best. But I'm a Harry Potter fan, so I've got to see it in another light here, because I would like to see it as an adaptation. And so this one looked the best, and just some of the choices made, I really liked. The new director on this one was Alfonso Cuarón. I don't know how you say his name. But he managed to put his own spin on the movie, and he creates this kind of bridge between the first two and then the middle section. It's this one and the fourth one, but this one manages to kind of bring in those darker tones that would take the forefront in the later movies without losing what was originally set up in the previous ones. And it, like I said, it manages to like aid that kind of transition to a darker, a darker kind of place, while still retaining the kind of childlike nature of the previous ones. So Deathly Hallows Part 2. That will take our number 3 slot, I think. Yes. And this one I felt did a great job of finishing off the series. It's a great movie. It's I have to, if I was ever to watch it, I'd watch part 1 then part 2. So it's not one I'd watch standalone. But there's a couple things I don't like about it. Like, for example, the end scene with the kind of flash forward 19 years later thing. That's just a bit trash. But I've said that's not anything to do with the film. That's to do with the book itself. And then also the fact that I don't like how Voldemort kind of like disintegrates, because the whole point is that Voldemort is afraid of being mortal and dying like a mortal man, and so him just becoming like Crispy Flakes Dandruff Man just doesn't really work. I just felt like they should really have just killed him off like a normal human being. I know it's not cinematic, but it gets the message across, and that's kind of what they were kind of aiming for here. But other than that, it's a great movie, and they do undercut some deaths in the Battle of Hogwarts, which I'm confused why they did that, because they had part 1 had the majority of the chapters. I'm pretty sure in the book there's like 36 chapters, and it's like 25 is up to 25 is like the first film, part 1, and then they had like the rest, and they kind of put too much stuff on some things and left out. Like, why are you gonna leave out Fred's death? That's kind of sad. Well, they don't leave it out, he's dead, but I mean, you don't see it happen. And that could have really led for Rupert Grint, who was playing Ron Weasley, to actually have some kind of like a bit more stuff to do. Okay, I'm gonna switch over to the number 2, which is Goblet of Fire, and this one will take the second spot on the list because it's got some great scenes. The 3 tasks as well as the graveyard scene are just some great entertainment. They take out the whole Rita Skeeter storyline, which I like it in the book, but I mean, if you're trying to length it down, I can see why you'd cut that out. And also they do change some things, but on a more serious note, the main issue with this is the same I found with the book, which was Harry himself doesn't seem to do a lot in terms of working out the plot. He's as much as a viewer to the storyline as everyone else is to the Triwizard Tournament. It's very weird. He doesn't do any. For example, in the first book, he is actively trying to work out things as they go. Although he gets to the wrong conclusion, everything he does to that point seems like it was going somewhere, and then when you get to the end, you're still like, oh wait, but that is true, because J.K. Rowling still gave you the stuff along the way. For example, Snape's trying to curse his broom. Hermione knocks over Quirrell. You can see him on screen knock him over as she goes to light Snape's cape on fire. But in this one, it's all just a kind of spectator. Which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, I'm going too much into details that aren't related to the film here. And finally, for some honourable mentions, you've got the Fantastic Beasts films. Don't know what's going on there. We'll have to wait and see. The Tales of the Beetle of Bard thing from the part 1. That we'll count that as its own movie. Oh, and the last one, The Cursed Child. JK, I'm not a monster. Come on, I'm not going to put that in there. And obviously, the number 1 slot goes to Order of the Phoenix. This one, I would say, does some parts better than the book does. And people may disagree with me because the books are the best. But for my review of Order of the Phoenix, I did not like the final scenes. I felt it felt comedic in a way. And it just felt off for me. And I don't know whether that's because I've watched the films and I know the film, I like that ending bit in the films. But the films take out quite a bit, which was not needed in the books. Because like I said before, it could be shorter. But also it changes some things, like the final scenes, the final battle in the Ministry of Magic. And it manages to correct those kind of stuff that I didn't really like. Like the whole thing with Ron going a bit delirious and touching brains that nearly kill him. I don't know what's going on there. The whole giant baby head time thing, Death Eater, that was just I don't know about that. But I do feel this film benefited from being a visual form with all the cool spells such as Voldemort's fire serpent, Dumbledore using the whole water sphere, and then Voldemort sending all the glass at them, and Dumbledore turning into sand stuff. It's just some of those things which I guess could have been done in the book, but I just felt this did it in a much more visually stunning way. And I don't know, the book could have done it a little bit better, but I like how this changed that, and I was aware that if you're going to set up these, like, I keep saying about this whole, like, darker turn in the book, because they are. When people open the first Harry Potter book, when they were coming out, they were probably around the age of the character, and the character itself grows as the reader grows, and so they're not going to want to read the last book with the same kind of tone that it would have the first. Or they might, but the fact that J.K. Rowling manages to continually make the themes darker and make the whole, make some of the themes like death, for example, even in part 1, Hermione gets tortured, and you wouldn't have that in the first book, and she managed to slowly shift towards those, so that way the messages then seem a bit more concrete. And so if you were to do the fourth one, where at the end the character of Harry sees the death of Cedric, who is just one of the most innocent people because he was only just trying to win this tournament. He'd done nothing against Voldemort, and he died right in front of Harry. And then you shift to the next book, and at the end of that you have some like weirdly comedic things which are also people are trying to kill you, but there's a giant baby head. Just felt a bit weird, but the films managed to change this and make it just a lot better for me, to be honest. I know that might seem a bit annoying because people are like, the books are the best, but people can do, if you're given the material, people can change it and make it better than the previous thing, because that's just how it is. And I felt the film did this very well. Although I do feel the kind of weird bits with the Harry angst stuff. But then again, like I've explained in my review, it was partly justified because the dude had just seen people die a lot. But anyway, that's my number 1. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember, I stream over on Twitch. That'll be in the description. They will also be, if you want to speak to me or any others about the books or anything in general, we talk about gaming, anything like that, we've got a Discord. I'll leave a link for that down in the description below, and I'll also leave a link down there for you to buy the films if you really want. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.